The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Albany County News. I'm Mary Rozak, the Director of Communications for Albany County. And in the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about a topic that, believe it or not, we have not talked about before, and that's the Department of Social Services. Joining me today, ladies, welcome, are two deputy commissioners from what we call DSS. We have Lisa Freedman and Erin Stachewicz. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And your specialties, while you are both the deputy commissioners, you have different specialties, different areas that you, I guess, would preside over. But first of all, maybe Lisa start with the Department for Social Services. What does that mean, and what do you encompass?
The Department of Social Services is Albany County's social safety net.
Okay.
We administer supports and programs for the poor and the near poor, and for adults who can't care for themselves. And that's sort of where the separation between our specialties takes place.
Okay.
Erin works more on the adult side, and I work more on the programs that are mandated by the state and federal government, which we dispense to the poor and the near poor in Albany County.
So our neediest, our most vulnerable populations.
That's
so it sounds like, the families that finds themselves not being able to make ends meet. So let's talk about that, because when we think about, or when many people think about social services, and we think back, sometimes you still hear throwbacks to like the 70s or the 80s. These people on welfare, what do these people have? And I started having the Archie Bunker guttural kind of sound in my voice. Let's talk about some of those programs and when you said safety net, social services really does in some of those programs.
Yes, the sort of most needy rung of the constituency of the social services, we have about 3,000 cases that are either on family assistance, they have minor dependent children, or on safety net assistance, which is New York State's program for singles and childless couples. I'll go back to that. The next echelon is the people on the first echelon that I mentioned really have they need help. They are without income to their households. They are either between opportunities or just have been left behind for one reason or another. They are the most vulnerable. And not only do we give them the assistance that's available under the law, but we also provide them with significant supports in terms of trying to help them find adequate shelter, trying to help them understand and overcome barriers to employment. We like to talk about your last day of welfare on your first day of welfare.
Okay.
We're very, very focused on trying the best we can to help folks move from dependency to self-sufficiency.
Well, going back to the Archie Bunker kind of adage, there's discussion, or there has been talk even recently, last few years. Are we talking about generations of folks who have been on social services? You're talking about breaking the cycle. What is it when someone comes in the door and you say, this is maybe the first day, we were talking about the last day. How does DSS help someone get to that last day?
We have a whole unit of folks, the employment unit, that works with these temporary assistance folks we have employment first of all, there are laws that they must It's not just because we want to or they want to. The law is very clear that we must engage them. So we have community partners.
So when you say engage them, when someone comes in, there are certain things you must do.
That's right. They must participate in employment-related and employment readiness activities. Now,
so it's not like someone comes in and says, hey, I'm going to sign up and I'm not going to work.
Oh, no, absolutely not. You would have to verify, you would have to have some sort of medical dispensation or be receiving a disability that is lower than what the income standard is. I think as important as that set of people are, because they are they take the most of our resources. The next level of people, there are 5,000 individuals in the public assistance, about 3,000 cases, the rest are children. The next stage is food stamps, the SNAP program, which has about 17,000 cases in Albany County right now, 17,000 households. Now, I'm telling you what you know already, there are about 125,000 households. So we're talking about 1 out of 5 or 6 households in Albany County that's receiving SNAP. SNAP is a program for the working poor, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Almost every case on the SNAP caseload has some sort of income to the household, but it's not sufficient. Under the law, it doesn't reach that level where the law says that they have enough to feed themselves.
And so we're talking about the law, and I want to make sure that we're clear. This is not something Albany County comes up with. This is not something discretionary. This is something that there are standards that are set. Because I know sometimes there are those out there that think that people at DSS have discretion over so much.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that we struggle with. There are misconceptions out there that we somehow have discretion, that there's somehow a gray area in terms of financial eligibility, and there really is zero. We're very, very, very tightly monitored by the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance and by the Office of Children and Family Services, and we can only dispense that assistance that the computer tells us the household is eligible for.
So you talked about that first level, that first tier of those who are the most vulnerable. Then we talked about 17,000 at the next level that are receiving some kind of SNAP benefits. Where else? Because I know there are about 50,000 or so unduplicated, to speak in the DSS terms that you gave me earlier, unduplicated individuals. So
we have another 20,000 or so Medicaid cases now. New York State took over most of the community Medicaid, but the Department of Social Services still administers Medicaid for the elderly and disabled and for the chronic care. So we have about 20,000 of those. There's also child support, which most people don't know this, but any child support order from the court is required to be paid through family court by income execution. So we have a whole section of folks who really don't deal, 95% of the constituency that they deal with are not associated with public assistance at all. This is anybody in Albany County.
So anybody, it's court-ordered child support, court makes the order, it goes through and DSS collects?
Yes, we have a collection. We have a support collection unit in the county courthouse, and we have support enforcement investigators in our building. And if the absent parent lapses in that payment, the custodial parent will call us, or we have other vehicles to find out that there's a lapse in payment because it's all computerized.
Sure.
The investigators will investigate and seek and try to nail down the people, the absent parents, so that they pay their child support.
And we're going to talk about investigators in just a moment. And we're going to let you in here too, Erin.
That's good.
I promise. I promise. So is that everything, or is there another, is there another level? We just talked about the child support. Does that?
Well, there's child support. The other main area besides temporary assistance, SNAP, and Medicaid, child support is kind of is there.
Okay.
The other main level is our adult services, and that's where.
And that's where Erin comes in.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about adult services. Take it away.
So adult services is a multi-layered division within our department that actually handles a number of things. One, we contract with the Department for Aging to do the New York Connects program, which is like a one-stop line that people can call about information and assistance about the various long-term services and supports available to them in the community, either for themselves or for their loved ones or professionals who are looking to link up with services. They also handle the intakes for all of the adult protective calls that come in. So as we know, there's a lot of elder abuse that occurs out in the community. Some of it's self-neglect, some of it is done by families. So we take those calls and investigate them. So we have a unit that investigates that and then determines whether or not we need to either look at getting someone else to take over the person's finances, because sometimes there's financial exploitation. Sometimes they're not paying their bills the appropriate way. So once we determine that there's some need there for this individual, we look at transitioning over to a permanent, long-term adult protective situation where Albany County comes in and takes over either guardianship of a person if they don't have competency anymore, or we become their representative payee. So we would handle their finances to make sure that they can maintain their housing, their electric,
I did not
and things.
know that. That's wow. So the county becomes the entity that does that.
Yes. So, and we're continuing to see that grow as the population ages and we see individuals that are not able to care for themselves, either due to some sort of disability or mental impairment, that we're finding that to be a huge area that we're seeing growing each and every month. So we expect that to continue to rise as we move forward. You know, there's a lot of education, a lot of focus on elder abuse and just abuse in general for that population. And we do see it in the younger population. All the guardianships or the adult protective referrals we get are not just for people that are 60 plus. We have a number of them that are younger. Most of those are really due to some sort of self-neglect. And you know, our goal is to either put in services to help them maintain themselves, either personally and or financially.
Sure. So is it a phone call or a tip or something that comes in before the investigation would start? Is that usually how that happens?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes individuals will call for themselves, but most of the time it's usually a neighbor, a friend, a professional that will call it in and say they're very worried about someone. And then from there, we determine whether or not there's some guidelines we have to follow, just as a lot of the other programs. There's certain statutes and regulations we must comply with. And part of it is that we have to make certain that no one is willing and able to assist, because that's part of the criteria. If there is, we can try to work with the person to help them get there, the person that is assisting. But if not, then we kind of take the lead and try to figure out next steps. We usually do that. We do an evaluation for 60 days to really get a good look at the case, to make sure that we know we can put the appropriate supports in place and get the case settled, and the person can, you know, hopefully remain in the community, which is what our goal is most of the time. So
Sure. I want to remind everyone we are talking about Albany County Department of Social Services today, and joining us are the Deputy Commissioners, Erin Stachewicz and Lisa Freedman. Erin, let's go back, and I want to just follow up programs. So you've just talked overall about some of the programs, but when we're talking about elder abuse, when we're talking about various other things, are there programs that are offered, seminars or anything like that? It would seem like it would be really hard. You must have partners that you partner with to do that, so that folks can find out how they can protect themselves or protect their loved ones.
Yeah, and certainly there are a lot of initiatives that go on and try to educate people. We certainly promote this. Right now we're working on a grant with one of our local community-based organizations, Office for Victims of Violence. And as part of this, we're actually educating the community. We're working with the police departments, we're working with professionals in the community, we're working with regular constituents in the community who might need to be aware of what adult protective services look like and how they can make referrals. calls. It's been, and I think that's probably why we're seeing an increase in the number of calls that we're getting in intakes, because people are becoming more cognizant about the fact that there is some help out there, or they can at least be evaluated to at least lead them in the right direction. And then we can talk to them, the caseworkers can talk to them about, well, what kind of services can we put in place? There are some times where we have to get someone removed from a situation and put them in a safe environment. So we work with our local hospitals. There's certain facilities we can place someone in to keep them safe and away from their abusers. So we kind of work through that with either loved ones that are involved or not involved, and with the team to make sure that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
We also have some committees that we work with across the state, both at the state level and local consortiums. We have a committee that works with mental health, with the Adult Protective Team, our state partners, and other adult protective situations, so we can kind of think about the difficult cases that we have and how we might be able to resolve them to make sure that they can stay stable.
Well, I know that when I came aboard in 2012, you were with the county, and then you worked with state for a little bit, and you've come back. From the time that you were with the county originally till now, I mean, I've got to imagine, as we know, the numbers of our senior population are growing. I got my AARP invite years ago, right? And we know that the number is growing. Do you see the workload, the need for services? As you said, the calls are increasing, but have you seen that since even in the last 5 years?
Oh, absolutely. Certainly there's a lot of programs out there, and people have more needs. We find that most of the people that are caring for their loved ones at home are caregivers, and they get stressed and they need assistance. And there's also individuals who recognize that they need help. So we have seen an increase in the number of people who are seeking out alternative assistance besides their loved ones. So they're looking for, programs such as, the Expanded In-Home Services for the Elderly program, which we will link them up with, which is an aging program.
Okay, and what exactly is that?
So it provides in-home personal care assistance or level 1 housekeeping services, so they can get housekeeping, bathing, cooking, cleaning, things like that. So it helps someone maintain themselves in the community. We contract with home care providers to provide that service.
But before you go any further, is that, because we are talking about services, is there an income threshold for that?
There is an income. There's a budget that gets looked at. It's a non-Medicaid program, so it's funded by state dollars and federal dollars. So because of that, there's an income threshold that they look at. So there might be a cost share that someone may need to contribute towards.
I guess that's my point. So it's there's help for literally for everyone. It's
Absolutely.
Just a matter of how. Okay.
Yes. So, and that's it's a great program to have, and as part of that, they get case management from the caseworkers that work for the county. So there's always someone checking in to make sure the services are going in the right direction, and that the home care agencies are doing what they need to do, which is a great benefit for the older adults, and provides respite so caregivers can go to work, so caregivers can, even if they're not working, they can go out and do grocery shopping or take some time for themselves, so they get the relief that they need so they can continue to maintain their loved one in the community.
All right, now from a public relations mode, put my PR hat on, I got to tell you, Department for Aging, that just turns me right off. Has there ever been any thought or discussion, or does anyone ever say, geez, I don't think of myself in my 50s as being a senior, close to being a senior. Do you know there are places that at 55 I can start getting discounts, right? Do people, find that maybe a little bit of a little hesitation because they think maybe it's for someone else or for someone older?
I would say that that's most likely true, because you'll find that, I myself don't think of myself as aging, and most people don't identify that way. We like to think of ourselves as young and vibrant, and we are.
In your mind, you're like 32, right?
Exactly.
Like everybody.
Exactly. And there's plenty of seniors out there who are in their 80s and 90s who still think they're young and vibrant. And so I think aging is a word that people kind of look at it in a negative way, but we want to think about it as aging successfully. We're all aging in a positive way. And I think that that's true you'll find that with caregivers too. They don't always identify, I just take care of my mother or my father or my sibling because I have to do that. Not that they're a caregiver. So they don't always identify. So some of the terminology we use might deter people from accessing or calling to get more information or services, but really they should think of it as something that could be really helpful to them.
New York Connects, is that a state line, state run? What's the New York Connects relationship with
Well, there is a state toll-free number that individuals can utilize to call, and when they do that, it actually filters out to the local area agencies on
Okay.
aging, New York Connects programs. So if they called the state number, the toll-free number, they would still get their local county partners to answer that. In Albany County, the Department for Aging contracts with Albany County Department of Social Services to run that particular call center.
Okay.
And it's 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, and the number is 518-447-7177, and they serve people of all ages.
Okay.
So they actually can talk about any kind of long-term service and support someone might need, whether it's Medicaid related or non-Medicaid related.
Okay.
We also work very closely. It's kind of turned into a no wrong door concept where we actually work very closely and have for the last year and a half with our partners at the Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities and our Office of Mental Health. So we have great collaborative partnerships with these entities. So if someone has a developmental disability and they're under the age of 22, we kind of link them up with OPWDD, our partners there. And if individuals have mental health issues, we can work very closely with our sister agency, Albany County Department of Mental Health, and if need be at the state level, some of the partner agencies there to make sure that we can get them the assistance they need.
Okay, so there is a partnership, there is a synergy that goes on.
Can I, I'm
No, go
sorry,
right
just
ahead.
add that this New York Connects and access to those services are without regard to income.
Okay.
Anybody in
Yes.
Albany County
Absolutely.
can
Right.
access those services, and we hope they do.
Which I think is important, because sometimes people will think it is, there is an eligibility, that there is, you can call and
You get any kind of
access that service.
information. There's no requirements to take services. It's all about education and making sure people are informed so they know what direction to take things, hopefully sooner, before the crisis occurs. So.
Let me turn our attention now to something that was recently in the news. County Executive McCoy really praising Department of Social Service investigators for their work ferreting out fraud. And so since 2012, I think the figure about $1.8 million in fraudulent overpayments to those who didn't deserve benefits, who came in, who got benefits, didn't deserve them. The county's been able to get back about $1.3 million of that. I know that some people are probably scratching their heads and saying, how does this happen? How can someone come in? Now we're talking about an eligibility requirement for some things, no requirement for others. How can someone walk into an office, sign up, get benefits, and maybe for a couple of years receive them? How does that happen?
Well, a couple of different things can happen. Number one, they could get on legitimately and then turn to badness.
So a circumstance would change.
Right, a circumstance might change. We try very hard with every single individual who comes to us for assistance to have our examiner level staff who do those interactions be as accommodating as possible. Yes, there are a raft of questions and a ton of paperwork to qualify for any of these, quote, entitlement, end quote, programs, and there are applications and there are various things that a person who's seeking assistance have to provide in terms of verification. And we want our examiners who do these interactions to challenge, to thoroughly ask the questions, but not to pursue so far that a person who may need assistance may feel invaded or otherwise dissuaded from getting that assistance. So what we do is we have our examiner series staff go right through and do the work, and then on the back end they refer that to our fraud folks. We're very proud of our fraud folks, and they work very hard, those investigators, which are different from child support investigators.
Sure.
These are fraud investigators. They work very hard, long hours, trying to make sure that we are properly stewards of the public dollar.
So can you give me an example, though? I know that there are some people who might be saying, all right, that's great. We want to trust people. We want to believe them, and the investigators are doing their investigating. You said sometimes circumstances change. People are not always honest. We know that when they're doing things. Can you give me an example as to how something may not be picked up and suddenly later something is?
Well, people will be untruthful, unfortunately. They will say they're working in one place and then through various, and they may verify that. And then we find out that they're also working another place, or that there's someone in the household who they didn't disclose was in the household who's contributing to that household. Most of our information comes from our frontline workers. This case that you referred to that the county executive initiated that press conference about was actually a tip that came from one of our SNAP staff.
Because we have somebody who collected for over 4 years, $70,000+ driving a BMW.
Right, and something didn't smell right to that examiner person.
Well, I would think so, but some people out there might say, something didn't smell right. The guy's driving a BMW.
Right, but we don't follow them around 24/7. We have 17,000 SNAP households. So it's incumbent upon us as the Department of Social Services to give the assistance, to provide the assistance to people who are eligible. And in that process, we try very hard to verify everything that they're saying, but especially when it comes to feeding people, we tend to err on the side of the client and check it out later. We would rather give them the access to the food if we're scratching our heads about something, and then have an investigator go out and take a look at the situation. There are also times when the investigators called in before we ever opened the case. That's cost avoidance, and you've got another couple of $1 million in cost avoidance over 2016.
So it's
Almost $2 million in 295 cases.
So as people are applying, it's caught right away.
Right. Either something doesn't add up with one of our computer matches, or something just obviously we have these people are practiced at this work. So
are the computers, and here's probably something that I think I know the answer to because I think I've heard it before, but not all computers are linked. Like people would say, wait a minute, the state computers, the federal computers, our computer. Sometimes people will say something, and yet we're not linked to all the other computers to verify.
no, we're not, but we do have mechanisms in place. There's through the Social Security number, the state has made deals with Social Security Administration and with various employers and with the tax department, so that you have to give us your Social Security number, and we will verify that it's the correct Social Security number. If you're getting income under that Social Security number that you are not reporting to us, we're going to find it anyway.
You're going to find it quick.
Also, you need to report your costs associated with your housing and your utilities and things like that. So if you're paying $1,000 a month for rent, but you only show us $785 in income.
Well, I'm scratching my head. How
Right,
do you do that?
exactly.
Right. And then you haven't eaten, and you haven't, done
Right,
anything else.
exactly.
So, very quickly, in the time we have to wrap up, tips, very important then, and I don't mean the kind that waitresses get, I mean the kind that people call in.
Oh, absolutely, please.
Because I think, you see something that's a little fishy, you think there's, where people are calling, where are they calling?
Wow, I didn't come prepared with that phone
But that's
number.
okay, DSS, the main line at DSS.
The main line at DSS is 447-7300.
Okay, and someone can direct you to
Or
the appropriate
if you go to the Albany County website, right on the front page, there's a link to an email where you can give tips, and there's also a phone number. And if you go deeper into the website, to the social services page, there's a great deal of information about the Department of Social Services and the programs and services we provide, and that is kept up to date by me personally.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. We've run out of time and didn't even get to talk age-friendly. I know Tom Scarf, our friend on Young at Heart, will probably talk more about that. But Lisa, Erin, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
We'll
having us.
have you back again soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to our Deputy Commissioners, Department of Social Services, Erin and Lisa. I'm Mary Rozak. This has been Albany County News. We'll see you again soon.